Hi, my name is Niv Ashkenazi, and this is Eye for Technique. I often hear students that have picked up the physical motion of vibrato pretty quickly, but they still struggle to apply it musically in their pieces. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite exercises for refining vibrato. This is really an exercise to build facility to have every type of vibrato available to you at the drop of a hat. From my playing, you might notice that I use a wrist vibrato, but this exercise works with any kind of vibrato. I usually start students on vibrato after their shifting looks pretty good and their hand framing is stable, so their intonation is good. I have several exercises that I teach right away, including a simplified version of this exercise. However, this exercise is best used for refining your vibrato so that you add more expression and variety to your vibrato. Often when students are first learning vibrato, they'll figure out one vibrato that sounds good and just use it everywhere. This is a great first step, but if you listen to any great performance, you will hear that there's a constant changing and variety of vibratos that occurs, sometimes even on a single note. To demonstrate this concept, I'm going to play a little bit of meditation from Thais. If you want to hear what it would sound like without a varied vibrato, it would be something like this. It sounds nice, but a lot more boring. Here is slow motion footage of me playing that passage. This is filmed on my professional slow motion camera at 250 frames per second. As you can see, the first note starts with a narrow vibrato that then widens and then narrows again. And each note will have a slightly different speed and width of vibrato. This variety in vibrato helps me phrase. So if I would like a little bit more intensity, I can do it with my bow, but I can also do it with my vibrato. If I want to play softer, I might play with a narrower and faster vibrato so that I still get that intensity and liveliness while playing soft. Each small change in the vibrato can really influence the phrasing, the colors, the sound, the character, and all of this creates a better performance. I've been playing this piece for many years, so I don't really think of my vibrato when I'm playing it. But when I first learned it, I actually spent a lot of time really thinking of the exact vibrato that I wanted on every single note. And I spent the time going note by note and connecting between notes with the vibrato that I wanted. I first learned this piece when I was 13, and my teacher really used this to help refine my vibrato. I became really obsessed with changing my vibrato and actually going and copying other violinists, not to sound exactly like them, but to learn from them where and how to vary my vibrato. I went note by note, really being exact about the width and speed of my vibrato until I got it exactly the way I wanted. Now I don't really think about it when I'm playing, I just listen and express myself, but there was definitely a lot of work that happened between age 13 to now to get to that point. There's a seemingly infinite variety of vibrato that a violinist can do, but really we can only control two things: the speed of the vibrato and the width of the vibrato. We can play our vibrato slowly or very quickly or anywhere in between. And in that same vein, we can play our vibrato very narrow or very wide and anything in between. This exercise is based on that premise and pushing your vibrato to its extremes. This exercise lets you go through many, many iterations and types of vibrato in a very short amount of time and a very structured way. The last bit of prep that we need to do before doing this exercise is have a grid with the 4 different kinds of vibrato that we can have. We can have slow and wide, slow and narrow, fast and wide, fast and narrow. There are 2 types of vibrato that we use the most. The first one is slow and wide, which creates a very rich sound. And the second is fast and narrow, which might be used to create more excitement. We can also have our vibrato be slow and narrow, and fast and wide. Those two we can use more for different colors and different phrasing that we might need for special occasions. In this exercise, we're going to pick two different types of vibrato that we're going to transition between. So I'm going to choose the slow and wide going to the fast and narrow. And I'm going to start with slow and wide, transition to fast and narrow, and then go back to the slow and wide. I want to do this as slowly as possible so I have the most variety in my vibrato. The other two, which is slow and narrow to fast and wide and going back, will sound quite different. I'm going to demonstrate that next. You'll notice that I'm trying to push my vibrato to its extremes, going way too fast to way too slow, way too wide, way too narrow. And this is to try and get to all the different types of vibratos. While you want to push this exercise to the extremes, you always want to hear the amplitude, or what sounds like wah, 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 wah in your vibrato. If you're finding this video useful, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Now I want to share some hints, tips, and variations on this exercise. The way I did the exercise, I started on one type of vibrato, transitioned to the second, and then back to the first. But really, you can transition as many times between them as you want, and sometimes it might be easier to get into a better groove if you're trying it multiple times, one after the other. Another important tip is to make sure that you're doing all the different types of this exercise rather than just focusing on the ones that are your favorite or easiest. In that same vein, it is important to do this exercise on all the different strings, on all the different fingers, and in many, if not all, the different positions. The feeling of our vibrato changes when we go around the bout versus below the bout, so it's important to have experience doing both. In order to help you keep things random, you can always ask someone else to pick which two you're going to do, or what finger, what position, or what string you're going to do it on. If you don't want to go the old school analog way, I've actually created a tool on my website specifically for this exercise. The randomizer will choose between the 4 basic types of vibrato that you can have. It will choose 2 of them for you to go between, and the advanced version of it will even tell you what finger and what note to play it on so that you can systematically work throughout your entire instrument and do vibrato in multiple positions on multiple fingers with multiple strings. I'll link to this randomizer down in the description. When first starting out, I usually have students start in either first or third position on the A or the D string, and usually on second or third finger because those are the easiest to start with and to feel good on. Like many skills on the violin, your success and gains from this exercise really depend on how well you do this exercise. You gain the most from this exercise by going as slowly as possible between the 2 types of vibrato so that you're covering the most types and varieties of vibrato. Usually when students first try this exercise, they get through it pretty quickly. They go from the first type of vibrato to the second type of vibrato fairly quickly, even when they're trying to do it pretty slowly. It's only as you get better that this exercise slows down and you're able to really define your vibrato and switch slowly from the first to the second type of vibrato. The slower you go, the more types of vibrato you'll be familiar with, and the more comfortable you will be switching from one type of vibrato to another.